Alright everyone, I believe I am live. Thank you so much for hopping on. I am on my phone on the separate end, and we're going to see what we're looking at here. But if you're watching this video after the live stream, don't worry. You're still going to catch all the latest weather information from me right here at One Nation Weather, so don't feel like you're being left out here. But thank you to everybody who's on right now. And let's see, I'm going to try and get on my phone and make sure that it's playing on there. And it looks like the live is playing through to that as well. So if I can get a thumbs up in the chat, yeah, I can. I just turned up my own phone and I can hear myself talking, so that's good. We're here. All right, let's go ahead and get started for us here. And we're going to go on over to our satellite imagery for us here. This is pivotalweather.com. You can see right here, this is our main system. We had a system move out and move on over into the northeastern United States. Just the last few, bands of this moving through portions of the northeast. But overall, that's moving on out. We've got this system for us here. By the way, I'm filming this on your Tuesday evening. For those of you watching later, you can see low pressure system swirling on up into portions of the north central. And really what I'm going to be talking about throughout the video is the impact this system is going to bring with ice, rain, as well as an attached frontal boundary that's going to get some activity going over the mid-south down the line. That's going to be what we're going to talk about there. And then we'll also probably do a brief tropical update at the end. And of course, I'll be answering your questions throughout the stream. So let's, again, you can see that system here. Really the wraparound from that going all the way back into Montana. And we've got these bands continuing to push eastward at this time. Now, if I look at the current hazards from the National Weather Service, you can clearly see for us on here that we have, these pink colors right here in the portions of northwestern Texas and that panhandle. We've got eastern New Mexico as well as southern Colorado. That's where we have, this is where we have red flag warnings for fire danger. We've got some alerts going on right here. Whoa, I didn't mean to make the pen that big. So you can see we've got those are actually it looks like a dense fog advisory maybe in that area. And then we also have special or wind advisories into portions here of western Maine, and the reason for that is as that system wraps back around. But also notice we've got just a couple of winter weather advisories for us here. And again, I didn't mean to do that with the pen. Got a couple winter weather advisories for us here in the north central United States as this system moves on through. So we're going to, let me just check on the stream. Oh, and you know what? Y'all are looking at a different tab right now, aren't you? Okay, now you're looking at my screen. Now you're looking at my screen. Okay, I apologize, everyone. All right, here we go. Now you're looking at my screen. In fact, okay, now you're looking at my screen. Okay, hopefully you're seeing my screen now. And that's going to be how we're going to go. So we're just going to, skip that little fluke. I've been talking about this screen right here. I had been looking at satellite imagery, but a system departed off towards the northeast. That's bringing wind advisories here in Maine. We've got winter weather advisories over the north central, and then we've got these red flag warnings right here for fire danger, dense fog advisory down there in the south central. So that's what we've got going on in the alerts department. Haven't covered much yet. Hopefully now you're catching all the information you should be. I apologize there for forgetting to switch the slide. So anyway, now we're on over to Radar Omega. You should be able to see this right now. We're going to take a 2D look at this. This is precipitation type and rate with the HRRR. First of all, here's the very minimal precipitation that is left there behind that little clipper quote-unquote system there. But this is going to be our system of concern. And actually, let me change the pen to red for us here. This is going to be overall the area of concern that I'm going to be talking about. That's going to be moving kind of east-southeastward here into portions of the northeast, and especially the ice risk is going to get going right here in eastern Maine, kind of into that zone, but maybe even Boston getting clipped by some snowfall. So let's play this out. This is going to be, I'm going to play this out with our 18Z run, which is just from a little bit earlier in the afternoon. Still basically the same information, and this is going to help me play it out just a little further. This is high-resolution model data using the HRRR through Radar Omega. Thank you to Radar Omega for being such a great application and working real well with me here on these streams. So again, you can see as we go into the night tonight, this is as we head towards about 9, 10 p.m. And I actually want to turn on the map for us here so that you can see some of the cities that are going to be impacted. But this is right around Duluth, Minnesota, just north of you there in that area, heading on up towards the International Falls region. We've got kind of this icy mix, maybe some snow mixed with some sleet. Anywhere you're seeing these pinkish colors, that's kind of where we're talking about some sleet, maybe some freezing rain. That brighter pink, that's really where the freezing rain potential would be. So some snow mixed with sleet in that area. For a place like Minneapolis, Stillwater, Minnesota, these areas, as well as St. Cloud, all of you looking to stay on the rainier side with this system. You can see this turns into a little bit of a heftier snow band. You can see some of those silverish colors pushing on over the upper peninsula of Michigan there. Houghton, Michigan, we've got Marquette, these areas getting in on some brief, hefty snowfall. It's not going to really accumulate, and in fact, look at how some warmer air wrapping back around this could actually turn this back on over to rain as it moves back on and around. And you can see how that moves through into the overnight hours. So I know I have a viewer, I believe LA Tours by Ray Maves is watching right now. I get a lot of comments from you about the weather in Wisconsin. In northern Wisconsin, that's where there could be a brief icier mix out of this system for you there. So hopefully this kind of answers your question right off the bat if you have any. And then it looks like it'll be more moderate rain activity on down towards places like Madison and Milwaukee for you there in Wisconsin. So this is as you're waking up. Now we're talking about on your Wednesday morning. This continues pushing east. We get some heftier rain to get going in Michigan. And in the morning time especially, we could see this start off as some brief freezing rain before this turns over to rain. So again, just watch out for some slick commuting issues. It will not last long. But again, freezing rain, remember, especially if you're thinking your forecast is rain and you start seeing freezing rain fall, freezing rain looks like regular rain because it's a pocket of warmer air in middle layers, maybe even upper layers of the atmosphere. If it's 31 right on those roadways, that's all it takes. That you might have a very slippery morning commute in some of those areas if it were to be 31 right on the roadways. In places like Detroit, maybe it's looking like mainly rain for you. Notice most of the snow stays north into portions of Canada, and we'll get some sort of kind of lake enhanced rainfall bands for us here from portions of Indiana on over to Lake Erie towards Buffalo, Rochester, New York as well. But then this is the real feature that I've been hinting at in my videos. I'll be trying to release a video on this tomorrow with the final details. This is your Wednesday night as we go into your Thursday, and you can see this this line right here. This is very classic. There's just enough cold air to support some brief sleet, some snowfall here on the northeastern side of this system and that band as it moves northeastward. So look at this. This is the HRRR. This is pretty much the most accurate short-term model. This shows areas all the way on over to Worcester there for you there in Massachusetts, getting in on some snowfall. For you there in southern Vermont, getting in on some snowfall and sleet. I should say sleet for you there in Massachusetts, by the way. Schenectady for us there, Albany, New York, Utica, Rome, Syracuse. All these areas could start off as some sort of sleet, freezing rain mix. That's what I'd be worried about. And in the areas where you start off as snow, this could be very brief, heavy snow, maybe lake-induced in a place like Watertown, New York. So I just kind of wanted to point that part out to you there. This is something that's really interesting. This is a hint that most of the models have not showed. The Weather Prediction Center is not on board with this. But the HRRR wants to give you a brief mix, maybe of some snow and some sleet, maybe a brief changeover to some freezing rain for you there in Boston. So I don't want to rule that possibility out in that area. And then here into portions of northern New York, into portions of Vermont, as well as southern New Hampshire. All of this area looks to see some sort of snow, sleet, or freezing rain to start. But remember, I was just mentioning you there in Syracuse. I was just mentioning you there in Rome. I was just mentioning you there in Utica, New York, all the way on down to Schenectady. Look at how the push of warmer air just in all layers begins funneling on in, even in the early morning hours that this is. And this already goes ahead and turns this over to rain. So hopefully most of this freezing rain in that region will happen before the sun even comes up. Most people will hopefully not be commuting yet, and by the time the commuting starts, most of that should have melted with some warmer, road conditions as well as just some rain falling, but still slippery there. Again, notice this changes over quickly in the morning in Boston, so if you see a brief early morning shot of snow or sleet on your Thursday morning, because remember we're talking about Thursday morning here, that should be pretty short-lived. Pretty much the entire state of New York, excluding some of these northeastern state mountains for us here, begin to turn over to rain or just see the precipitation in, like back towards Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, even towards mid to late morning. But in places like eastern Vermont, portions of New Hampshire, as well as southwestern Maine, that's where we could see, some sleet, some freezing rain at this time. And then continuing to play this out, and I forgot to erase, this is the furthest the HRRR model will go. Pretty much the same things expected to happen in Maine, but you notice more of these blues really continuing. There's not as much pinks into Maine right off the bat. This is because this is going to be the biggest snow event in Maine. Otherwise, it's pretty much just change over to rain. If you have any chance of seeing no change over to rain, it's up here in northern Maine. But pretty much all areas that I'm about to circle right now. All of these areas here pretty much going to change over as soon as that, within a few hours of when that frozen precipitation starts. So that's really the topic of discussion with this system. And let's see what's going on in the chat. And we've got 5 viewers on now. Let's see what we've got here. Hopefully El Nino brings me below average snowfall. Nice storm system. There was a dusting this morning. Oh, dusting this morning in Wisconsin for their Eleva tours. By the way, thank you, Eleva Tours by Ray Mays, as well as the Kaiser Gal 24 for being on here. Didn't last long. Not bad. 50% chance of below average precipitation. Yeah, I would expect below average precipitation for you there with El Nino. In that case, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to turn on the European model 12Z run, and I just kind of want to run through what it shows and how these these broader scale models haven't really showed. Look at how you never see any sort of heavier precipitation like these. This is the benefit of these shorter range models. They can really pick out these smaller changes. Really, here into Massachusetts, don't expect much if you even see any sort of snowfall. By the way, if you want to take a look at that satellite imagery I was looking at just a minute ago when you couldn't see my screen because I was silly, honestly, and I forgot to change it over to that, by the way. Sorry for that. Yeah, there's what we're looking at. This is the system right here. This is the culprit, and it's going to be moving eastward. So let's talk about the other side of this system, because there's honestly two parts. Because look, you can really see the drag. You can just see that these are tightly packed isobars right here. This is right here is a front. And whether you see it or not, because you're not going to really feel it here in the areas I just circled, you're not really going to feel it here in these areas where the winds might kick up behind it. But believe it or not, there's a front crossing the country and getting its act together here over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours. Once it gets enough of its act together, that's when we begin to see this happen. Some explosive rainfall, maybe some thunderstorm precip for us here into portions of Texas, the Arklatex, on over into portions of northern Mississippi and northern Alabama, as well as, I don't know if I even just mentioned, I think I mentioned Tennessee. These areas, by the time we go to your Thursday night, that's as the Clipper part of that system departs. Again, look at the only area that actually doesn't change back over to rain. It's in northern Maine, as I was just mentioning a moment ago. So that happens, right? And maybe some wraparound snow bands up there. We get a brief hit of some much-needed rainfall here in this region. Pretty much the entire front in tatters otherwise. So if you live in the southeast portions of the Carolinas, you need some rain in those areas. Not really picking up much. But you can see some sort of lingering precip possible. The Euro doesn't like this as much. But overall, in terms of your expected rainfall out of this, you can see a solid in these blue colors. That's where you're talking about at least half an inch. I wouldn't necessarily count on it in that area. I'd count on a half an inch of equivalent precip, whether it's from snow, sleet, rain in that area. The area, though, that we're really talking about with the best chance for a half an inch to an inch of rain is here in eastern Texas into the Arklatex, which is where it is honestly really desperately needed at this point. Now, with your Climate Prediction Center outlook, behind that system, we get this big warm-up to begin pushing on over. And this isn't going to, this is late season for sure. This right here is the second deepest red color you can get on the Climate Prediction Center's maps. We're talking high certainty of above average conditions here over the north central by that time. So really a big pattern flip to be looking out for at that point. So again, summarizing what I've talked about so far, and really that's just the main scope. This wasn't meant to be anything long. We're talking about a system moving through the northeast, bringing a brief shot of some ice. And in fact, one last thing that I definitely want to touch on there in the northeast is the potential for how much ice you could see. But anyway, system moving in the northeast, we could see some ice out of that, especially in portions of the interior northeast and New England as this system initiates. Okay, and then once that happens, then we kind of start focusing more towards the south central end of this, where it could be a little stormy. So I'm going to head on over here. This is a National Weather Blend of Models, and yeah, we're going to click on that and see how much ice is expected to fall. Again, this is really not going to be much because it's going to be a quick shot. But notice some of these trying to creep into portions of central Massachusetts. Again, you might not get accretion of ice or snow in some of these areas. Remember, in Maine, this isn't going to be falling as ice, so it's going to be snow. That's why you don't see anything there. But these areas here, you will actually get some accretion. You'll have enough time to see the ice. In a place like Boston, if it were to happen, it'd be so brief that it could briefly cause a slippery morning commute, but overall would not really necessarily interfere or cause any of those ice totals. I want to take a look at the GFS model really quick. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to look at composite reflectivity, which is just a radar over the the tropics. And we don't have anything designated from the National Hurricane Center, but areas in the Caribbean is where I'd be watching, and this model's taken a while to load up. I apologize for that. Pardon me, should have brought some water in here, shouldn't I? By the way, thank you to everybody who's on here, whether you're watching now or watching later. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Hitting a like on this live stream really helps me out. Again, notice not a lot goes on. The GFS has been hinting on something like this for a while. Watch this. This is about November 13th, okay? Watch that. The Euro has not been as on board overall, but we've got a front here. There's enough energy that it could continue wrapping, getting some of that moisture from the front, but it's not close enough to the front to really get torn apart. Look at how the GFS turns this into something near Jamaica, near Cuba, near Hispaniola, near all of these areas. And look, the GFS has some sort of hurricane coming right over that region. It would be pretty rare to see this in November. The GFS has been honestly had a mind of its own over this entire region for the last 3 weeks. But just don't sleep on the tropics, okay? That's all I'm trying to say for you there, especially in the Caribbean. Overall, in the United States, I think we're honestly, I don't want to say completely done, but I want to say our threat for big tropical hits especially, is waning. And then one other thing, by the way, there's a chance of increased precip over the United States by the time we head towards mid to late month. Look at that kind of system. That would be an interesting severe weather setup to watch. Something that the GFS model has also been hinting at times recently that necessarily has not come true every time and really has not come true. All right, let's see what's going on. We've got, you're right, bed might grow. Okay, so we've got kind of some, hoping West Virginia gets a lot of snow this winter. Thank you for commenting for you there, Craig Thompson. For you there in West Virginia, if I were to pull up my snowfall map, I can tell you that I would be expecting, I believe I had your area in near normal to slightly above normal snowfall in West Virginia. So I don't know exactly where you live. You don't have to tell me, but a lot of people who like snow tend to know how much snow they normally get. So if you know, let's just say you normally get a foot, then I would expect maybe a foot to a foot and a half of snowfall this winter, say. So maybe a little bit above average. But if you want to, if you just go on over to the videos tab on my channel for you there, Mr. Thompson, you will find information. You will find my winter forecast. I'm about 3 videos back on there. So thank you so much for joining the stream. We've got 7 on here right now. Let me know, guys, if you have any questions. The drought needs to start improving down in the south. Yeah, definitely needing water in a lot of areas. Thankfully, with El Nino kicking in, I would expect some sort of drought improvement. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me after me for getting that silly thing at the start to switch the stream and get it started. But anyway, this is going to be the end of this stream. And I'm going to end it in about 1 minute if there's no further questions. Southeastern side. I got you. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go over to studio.youtube. So we're going to head on over to my channel, actually. And we're going to go to my winter forecast. And I want to look at my analytics. By the way, thank you for the support, everyone, on this forecast. I was not expecting it to do so well. It's really been blowing up. But let's head on over to engagement, and I can actually kind of play through. It should let me anyway kind of play through the video here, and we're going to go on over to the snowfall forecast. Yeah, so they're in southeastern West Virginia. You're kind of on the line. So I was kind of thinking of Virginia with my above average. So really kind of on the fence, because with El Nino, normally in the Ohio Valley, it's a little bit less than average, but you're kind of right on that border for you there of the Appalachian Mountains. So I would anticipate kind of a mixed bag, and honestly, you're in one of the areas with one of the least certainty on how much snowfall you'll get. The North Central, it's normally pretty much a guarantee with El Nino. I wouldn't call it a 100% guarantee, but it's normally below average in the North Central, normally a little bit above what you should be in the South, even though you don't get much even with that. So there in southeastern West Virginia, I would kind of be monitoring that. But so stay tuned just kind of for my forecasts as they come, because that might be where you get some of the details. Will these fires get worse? I don't know exactly which fires that you are referring to, but I know there are fires across the country. There's the red flag warnings there in south central United States. So that's kind of, yeah, that's, but so I can kind of try to answer you if you tell me what fires you're talking about at the Kaiser Gal 24. But I gotta know which fires you're talking about to be able to help you with that. But Mr. Craig Thompson, I hope I helped you with your question there. And thanks for watching. Alright, I'm not getting any response about the fires. And the fires in North Carolina. Okay, I believe the fires that you were talking about are in maybe in the western part of the state. So in terms of the fires in North Carolina, a brief shot of some rain in the near term. I'm not expecting much there. This will probably be enough to help with whatever firefighting efforts are going on. For the fire concerns here in this region that I'm circling, I would not expect much improvement if any fires have started there as well. So in terms of fires that you're talking about in western North Carolina, if that is the exact fire that you're talking about, if I'm thinking correctly, that region overall not getting a lot of rain, but enough to probably help firefighting efforts. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm going to end the stream now. Y'all have a good night.